Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today's episode 105. It is Sunday, November 16th, the day after what was an incredible day of combat sports, huge events, huge fights. I'm still processing everything that happened yesterday. Islam Makhachev is now double champ. He beat Jack Della Maddalena, and he didn't just beat him. He broke him. He dominated him, didn't give him any second to breathe. All 25 minutes of the fight were just pure class from Islam. Fantastic performance. He's now two-division champion of the UFC. He's not still lightweight champion, but, he's earned those titles. He never lost it. He vacated it. But he is now the reigning welterweight champion. We're going to talk about that whole card. We're also going to talk about Conor Benn absolutely dominating Chris Eubank Jr. in the rematch. Complete shutout, dropping him twice in the second round. I picked Eubank coming into this fight. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, I don't know, man. Like, that weight is going to take a lot out of Eubank. How much did the first fight take out of him? He's getting up there. I just thought, and Conor Benn, like, he's in a better headspace this time. He's bigger. I didn't think that there could be such a sharp fall off in a fighter from what is their career best performance with Eubank and their very next fight, which is arguably his worst performance, definitely his worst performance. So we're going to talk about what's next for both and just everything that happened. But let's start with UFC. Main event, Islam and JDM. This was a fight that, look, Islam was coming in as the challenger. He is the smaller guy, but not by much. JDM's really good. He was on a huge win streak, but I'm going to be honest. This entire build-up, I've been saying very confidently that Islam wins this fight. And so many people were saying, oh, JDM's going to do it. JDM's going to knock him out. I just want to know, where did that mindset come from? Like, I really don't get it. Besides people just not liking the Dagestanis and wanting, their reign to come to an end and hoping that JDM can do it. Maybe they tricked themselves into, delusion and thinking, no, he's going to do it. I don't understand why anybody would pick JDM in this fight. If you were to make a ranking of all 8 male UFC champions before this fight, would JDM not be at the bottom of the list? He would 1,000% would. And would Islam not be at the top of the list? You can argue with him and Ilya about who's pound for pound number 1. I think it's Islam still. I think Islam beats Ilya personally, but he's 100% top 2. And you can't argue against that. So I don't know, man. It was a little bit of a weird buildup, I thought, and I thought that Islam just showed exactly how good he is. I mean, his wrestling is just incredible, and in JDM, his wrestling just can't compete at all. As soon as he got taken down, he tried to get up. He couldn't. I do want to say that JDM, he did have fantastic heart. He never gave up. He was always trying, but you could just tell that he had nothing left, and he was just like, I cannot beat this guy. Like, in the 5th round, he looked like he was in pain, like serious pain. But he never quit. He never tapped. I know some people were going to call it boring. I just think it was excellence by Islam. I don't know who can beat the guy. I mean, it really is only Ilya that's an interesting and compelling fight. I mean, the issue with that is that Islam just moved up to 170. Ilya just moved up to 155. They've got a whole batch of contenders waiting for him. I do not think that Islam goes back down to lightweight because he was kind of killing himself to make that weight, and he looks much better at 170. I'm going to assume that if that fight happens, it will be at welterweight, and I can't think Ilya is going to just chase Islam to 170. I think he's going to want to reign over 155 for a bit. So I don't think that fight happens next. I hope it does happen at some point, but I don't think it happens next. As for what happens next for Islam, he's got a whole lot of options in the welterweight division. Nobody has really staked their claim as the main contender. I think there's 2 most likely outcomes, and that is if Ian Gary can beat Bilal Muhammad next weekend in Qatar, I think Ian Gary may be able to get the title shot. If not him, I also think Kamaru Usman could get it. Even though I don't think Usman necessarily deserves it, he is a big name. Islam mentioned him specifically this week as the guy he wanted to fight next. So I wouldn't be surprised if they, pulled that fight. I wouldn't be too mad at it. And then you've got the guys like Carlos Praches and Michael Morales, who we'll talk about, who both had unbelievable knockouts on this card. In my opinion, I think they should actually fight each other next, and then the winner of that, maybe then that guy will be in a position to contend for the title. Shavkat Rakhmonov is also still around, but he's been inactive for a year. He needs to come in, get another win, and then if he wins that, he can jump right back into being number 1 contender. But let's talk about the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko completely dominating Zhang Weili. So we had 2 title fights on this card, both of which went the distance and were complete 50-45s. I mean, Shevchenko, and honestly kind of played out the same way. A little bit boring, but Shevchenko did prove that she is just way too big for Zhang Weili. And I mean, we saw how dominant Zhang Weili is at 115. That's why I picked her in this fight. I was actually 0 for 4 on the card before the main event. I did pick Islam. Everybody else on the main card, my pick was wrong. But as for the main event, or as for the co-main event on its own, I was really, really impressed with Shevchenko. I'm not overly disappointed in Zhang Weili. I mean, yeah, she was a killer at 115, but you just saw the size difference in there. Shevchenko's a very big 125 as well, and Weili is not a natural 125. So I'm not overly surprised. I think that she can still go down to 115, fight Mackenzie Dern, win their title back, and just reign supreme. It won't be as exciting, because this was the only competitive fight really for her, but it ended up not being competitive. I mean, yeah, some people are mad about Shevchenko, because it was boring, but you have to consider her as one of the all-time greats of women's MMA. Like, she's easily top 5 all-time. She's just so dominant, and I'm really, really impressed, because after her last fight with Manon Fiorot, I didn't know if she was going to be able to win this fight. I didn't think she would. And she completely dominated her, laid on top of her. And when you have somebody who's that much bigger than you and that talented and skilled as a wrestler, you just can't get out from under them. I thought Zhang Weili looked okay when she was trying to strike, but even then, Shevchenko was doing great body work. That knee to the body in the first round honestly dropped her. So, flawless performance from the champion. As for what's next for her, you could do the rematch with Fiorot. She did just have a win. Natalia Silva is another contender. She'll probably get the next title shot. Again, you're just going to have to hope that one of these contenders can do something crazy, because you have Shevchenko, Kayla Harrison, and Zhang Weili, and you put them all into their own respective divisions. Nobody can mess with them. So I don't know. We do need more competitive fights to go on, and this was our best hope. This was number 1 versus number 2. I still think that they're number 1 and number 2 pound for pound, but yeah, Shevchenko reigns supreme. As for the undercard, Sean Brady getting finished by Michael Morales in round 1 was a big shock to me, and you definitely do feel for Brady, because he was going to get that title shot next if he had just decided to, sit out for a little bit longer, but he stayed active, because that's what fighters do. Took on a contender way down the rankings, and Michael Morales, a very explosive, powerful, and big welterweight. He's giant. Sean Brady, wasn't able to shoot any takedowns, and I was thinking, why can't he? And then I was like, oh, he just can't get to him. Morales' reach is so long, he can just keep Brady away and just, punch his head off, and that's what he did, and he finished him in round 1. Gave him only the second loss of his career. Before that fight, Dana said, yeah, sure, the winner of that could get the title shot. I think that was more of Brady won than we would all be saying Brady is clearly the next guy for the title. Now, the Morales one, it's a little bit uncertain. Does he get it? I think he only has, 2 ranked victories? So it's a little bit questionable. Does he really deserve it? And then you also have somebody like Carlos Praches, who comes in there with Leon Edwards. And I do really feel for Leon, because he looked phenomenal in round 1. I thought he won round 1 for sure. He also had good wrestling. He showed he'd work on that. And then Carlos Praches just does what he does and gets a huge knockout on Leon. Some people calling it an early stoppage. I don't think it was. I think that Leon was looking up at the ceiling. The way he fell, you stop that. So then even Carlos Praches, you can argue, does he deserve a title shot just off that win with how crazy it was? And that's what you need. You need big moments. I think these are 2 explosive, big welterweights. I would love to see them fight each other next. And then the winner of that, maybe they get a title shot. Welterweight is easily one of the most exciting divisions in the sport right now. Let's talk about Benoit Saint Denis, who's been on a phenomenal run this year. Obviously just beat Mauricio Ruffi. Comes into this one and then finishes Beneil Dariush in literally 10 seconds. And Dariush is he's been around the block, sure. I thought he'd maybe be able to win a decision or something. But BSD is just showing that he is really, really coming into his own as a fighter. Coming through the ranks, and he's kind of a top contender now. After that win, he just blew right through him. It reminds me of was it Zalal who beat Josh Emmett super easily a couple months back? That's kind of what it feels like. So well done to BSD. I think what is that, 3 wins this year? He'll get a very big fight at lightweight next. Again, another very exciting division, and it's just crazy. Bo Nickel making his return to the cage too. Phenomenal performance over Rodolfo Vieira, dominated the fight, and then finished it off with an excellent head kick KO, showing, and he barely wrestled in that fight. He showed, I can strike too. So definitely beating a lot of the boring allegations, beating the fraud check allegations. Look, it was a really rough loss to RDR, but he looked miles better in the cage last night. And RDR, that loss for Bo did not necessarily age overly well, but I was very impressed with his performance. RoboCop, Gregory Rodriguez got himself a unanimous decision win over Roman Kopylov. I mean, he was just so big. He's such a big middleweight, and he's so just hard to beat. I mean, he's so strong, and all of his punches, I'm like, ugh, I don't know. It was a good performance. We'll see if he gets another ranked fight. Aaron Blanchfield submitting Tracy Cortez in the second round. I actually thought Cortez had a good start in the first, but then it was all Blanchfield. Really, really good win for her, and that'll push her very close to a title shot. I believe they're also flyweights. So, it's a good division there, I guess. And then you had Malcolm Wellmaker dropping a decision to Ethan Ewing, got dominated. Ewing took this fight on like 48 hours notice, probably less. Malcolm Wellmaker, one of the hottest prospects in the UFC, and then just got completely dominated. I was shocked. So, it is what it is. He's from Georgia. I'm from Georgia, so I was really rooting for him. I thought it was a phenomenal fight, and he shows he's got a really great chin, but Ewing deserves like a bonus or something because that was phenomenal. Coming on 2 days' notice, take on an undefeated prospect and completely dominate and beat him up. Fantastic. Kyle Daukaus, very quick first-round submission of Gerald Meerschaert. Probably that's it for Meerschaert, but yeah, good one for Daukaus. Pat Sabatini, 30-27 win. Fatima Klein, 30-27 win, so she'll get a boost up to the rankings. Baisinger Susarkayev getting a third-round finish. I thought the finish itself was good, but before then, very disappointing performance. Coming into the UFC, we were expecting a lot more, and it was very average, I thought, until then. And then Mateus Camilo started off the night with a unanimous decision win over Vyacheslav Borshev. So overall, really fun card. The early prelims were a little bit boring, and then when you got to the main prelims, it just got so exciting. And I do think 322 was one of the best cards this year. Maybe not the best. It was arguably the biggest, but it was a hell of a night. A lot of fun. Now let's talk about the big one. Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn 2. I am still honestly kind of in disbelief, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong about this fight. I knew that there was a lot of reasons why Ben was going to do a lot better, and I knew there was a lot of reasons that Eubank could do worse. But I just didn't see Ben winning the fight. And not only did he win the fight, I can't believe how different those two fights played out. The first one, fight of the year, competitive. Eubank just too big, too strong. And then the second fight, Eubank has nothing left. I mean, he looked like a shot fighter as soon as he walked in to the ring. Completely. I mean, I don't know if it was the weight or the age. I think that in April he left absolutely everything that he had left in him from his career, he put into that fight. And that was partially why I wanted to delay the rematch, as I think he just needed time to recover. And, he is 36. Ben is 29. Boxing is a younger man's game. And, I just think that he's completely finished. His legs were gone. His energy was gone. He didn't have any want to be in there. I honestly thought at one point the corner should have pulled him out. And then he gets to the 12th round. He almost gets stopped. Takes 2 hard knockdowns. I also thought Conor Benn just had a phenomenally improved mindset coming into this fight. A good game plan, too. He was aggressive from the start, but he wasn't careless. And he wasn't just throwing haymakers. He was really calculated and boxed a very, very good fight. Never got too excited or ahead of himself. And he put on a lot of good muscle and size for this fight as well, as we saw with the weights. So really, really strong performance by Ben. And as for Eubank, I think it's clearly time to retire. After that, I have no interest to see him fight again. I don't even know who it would be against. People are saying, could they do a trilogy? No. Yeah, sure, they are one apiece. The Benns do now have a win against the Eubanks, which is great. But in terms of them running it back, we saw a competitive fight in the first one. The second one, there was no competition at all. Like, there's literally zero reason to do a trilogy. You look at Beterbiev Bivol. That one you can do a trilogy because you had 2 fights and they were both very competitive. This one, the second one, was not competitive at all. Leave it. Let Eubank retire if he wants to. He's definitely going to take a break. Think about if he wants more money. If a Canelo paycheck pops up for him, I'm sure he'll take it. I don't want to see Canelo fight him because if Conor Benn did that to Eubank, I don't even want to know what Canelo can do to Eubank. No interest to see him fight again. As for Conor Benn, he's got so many opportunities. He can move down to 147 or 154. He wants to move down to 147. I would rather him fight at 147. I just don't know if he can physically make that weight anymore with how much weight and size he's put on. I think he's going to try. He really, really wants the Mario Barrios fight for the WBC title. He really wants that one. And I would love it. I think that he beats Barrios. I think welterweight is a very weak division of champions. You have Lewis Crocker, who's not great. Barrios is not great. Rolly Romero is not great. Brian Norman Jr. is the only good one, and he's fighting Devin Haney. So the winner of that is definitely going to be the king of the division. And then you've got lots of other guys, and even just other big money fights there. Manny Pacquiao, Ryan Garcia. So many great fights at 147 pounds for Conor Benn. I just don't know if he can physically get down there again. If he can't, 154, another phenomenal division. It's just filled with killers. It's absolutely filled with killers. So very rough chances trying to get a world title at that division, but at 147, I think it's very possible for him, and he's got a huge profile now. He's a huge star in the UK. Somebody like Barrios will 100% take the paycheck, go over there, and get a big fight against Conor Benn. Let's talk about the undercard. So we had Jack Catterall, Ekau Essuman. I thought that was a pretty fun fight. It was interesting. I thought that Catterall had a much more aggressive style. I was impressed by him. There was clearly a little bit of a level difference between the two. I think that Catterall is definitely a world-level fighter, and Essuman is close to that, but a little bit more British-European. Great performance over Josh Taylor earlier this year, but Jack Catterall, just a much more talented and skilled fighter right now, and Catterall put on a very, very strong boxing display. I did think Essuman recovered from that early knockdown very well, came back into the fight. He had a big cut and bruise, but he just kept on coming, and that's what he does. He's an engine. I don't think he was as competitive as some people are saying. I still think that Essuman had won like max 3 or so rounds at the time of the stoppage. I think that Catterall had won almost every round, and including the knockdown and stuff. I thought there was no way for Essuman to win the fight, but he did definitely have his best moments towards the end, and Catterall, had to dig deep to stay in there. As for the stoppage, definitely controversial. Obviously, Catterall, right before the stoppage, they're fighting. They kind of get broken up, and as the ref doesn't break him up in time, Catterall drops him. Fully a knockdown. Essuman was hurt, got sent down by it, and then the ref's like, okay, we're not going to count that as a knockdown. There's a break. Don't do that again. And then immediately has them fight. So Essuman doesn't really have any time to recover from it. And then Catterall immediately pounces on him, as he should, and finishes the job and gets a big 11th round stoppage, knocking him out of the ring. I thought the knockout was great, but definitely just unfortunate for Ekau Essuman. You do feel a little bit bad for him because it wasn't necessarily a fair stoppage, a fair way to finish the fight, but it is what it is. And Catterall is a guy who I would rank higher than Conor Benn on the welterweight landscape right now, especially because he's actually a welterweight. But he is going to get very close to a world title shot. I mean, he's probably going to be ranked very highly by the WBO. I could see him definitely in with Devin Haney, Brian Norman next. I think that he's probably going to be considered a top 10, top 15 welterweight after that win last night. And there's lots of good matchups to be made at welterweight. I would not be surprised at all if he ends up getting ordered to face the winner of that, or if they just decide to make it. But it's a big fight. Lots of good fights for him. Again, like I said, Lewis Crocker, Conor Benn. Matchroom on its own is a lot of great welterweight fighters. So we'll see what happens. Also on the card, Adam Azim dominating Kurt Scobie. Scooby had so much talk coming into this fight. And look, I get it. He's a funny guy. He's just building the fight. He's doing a great, great job marketing himself. But you can't talk all that and then come in and give essentially zero effort. He didn't do anything the whole fight. Didn't try anything. I mean, I know that he's had cardio issues in the past, so he's probably just trying to make it the whole 12 rounds, but had no belief in himself to win. Adam Azim is a very, very talented fighter, and he's just showing it every time. I think that he really needs to be stepped up, because when he does fight guys like this, he looks great, but it's also, and he got a lot of good rounds in. He did get a stoppage in the 12th round, but it's just that we need to see him in with Dalton Smith or somebody like that. I need to see him in a top 15 level fight, because I think he's a top 15 fighter by now. He's beaten and stopping Sergey Lipinets, O'Hara Davies, and now Kurt Scooby. Put him in there with someone good. He's very, very skilled, very quick, very high boxing IQ. I just really want to see him fight Dalton Smith specifically. And if they're always trying to push you back, and if they're saying that Smith, let's wait until it's ready for a world title. If Dalton Smith can beat Subriel Matias on January 10th, that is the fight to make. Absolutely, for the WBC title in the UK, it'll do great numbers, and that's that. Also on the card, you had Richard Riakporhe blowing out Tommy Welch in 2 rounds. Pretty much what I expected. He had a huge size advantage and just experience advantage. Welch had never fought above 8 rounds before then, and Riakporhe is a very big and powerful puncher, and so he finished that fight quite easily. Looked good doing it. I would like to see him in with some of the domestic heavyweights next. He said he wants to get in that scene. Maybe the winner of Frazier Clark, Jimmy TKV, David Adelaide is there. Even Lawrence Okoli. They were meant to fight in April. I do really like the David Adelaide fight. I don't know why. I just think it'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, lots of good options for him. Sam Gilly and Ishmael Davis. Really close fight. Really fun fight. I thought Ishmael Davis did enough to win it. I had him winning, I think, 115, 113, maybe even 116, 112. I think that Gilly had a really strong start when he was kind of quiet, and then Davis kind of took off from there. Gilly came back into the fight later on, but definitely stronger finish from Davis. Arguably a knockdown for him in the 12th round. Didn't get scored as such, But yeah, some people a little bit upset that, or not. I think most people think that Gilly won, or sorry, most people think that Davis won. Some people on Gilly's side, it really could have gone either way. But I'm really just happy for Ishmael Davis. He's taken 3 fights in the past, 3 losses in the past year, all of which kind of have asterisks. Either they were, short notice against much, much higher opposition, or, the Keeman Jarko fight, just a very close fight that he got unlucky in the decision for. Similar to this one, very close fight, but he did get the decision for it. So I thought it was a lot of fun. You also had Mikey Talon, who, I think he only had his second stoppage in his career, but a great, great knockout in, I think, the 5th round. So really fun card in the UK. Lots more to come from that group. Turki Al-Sheikh, Eddie Hearn, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But we also had Rafael Espinoza successfully defend his WBO featherweight crown against Arnold Khegai in Mexico. Good homecoming. I thought that Espinoza looked good. I think that he's just a complete bully at featherweight, especially Khegai, who was like a foot shorter than him. I expect that's what Jake versus Tank would have looked like, just that huge difference in height and size. Just beat him to a pulp, bullied him. The uppercuts are crazy. I think Kagai's corner failed him. I mean, if you look at him after the 10th, he looked like the guy from the Goonies. You know what I'm talking about? Where he was so swollen, and I don't understand why his corner didn't pull him out before then. I get it, you're tough, you got heart, but he should have been pulled out probably after around 6 rounds. And they just kept him in there, and he took way more of a beating than he had to. He had no way of winning that fight, lost every round, and Espinoza gets a finish after the 10th round. As for him, it's got to be a unification next, some kind of big fight. Shushu, that's not a unification, but I'll take it. But I would particularly love to see him fight Angelo Leo or Nick Ball, but particularly Leo would be a lot of fun. I think that'd be a great fight. You can do it in the U.S. And Nick Ball would also be fun just because there's genuinely a foot difference between them. Nick Ball is 5'2", Espinoza, I believe, is 6'2". So it would just be absolutely hilarious to watch. But he's the king of the featherweight division. He needs to fight someone at that level. Emiliano Vargas in the co-main event went all 10 rounds with Jonathan Montrell. Dropped him in the first round. Never hurt him really beyond that point. I would have liked to have seen him try a little bit harder to get that stoppage at times, but, took his time. Good, valuable rounds for him. Definitely valuable experience against a game opponent. He's good. I saw a lot of people saying, who wins Adam Azim versus Emiliano Vargas? I think Adam Azim is far more developed than Emiliano Vargas is at this point. I think Vargas can definitely win that fight at some point in the future, probably pretty soon, but it's not time yet. This was his first 10-rounder. Azim has been fighting in 12-rounders for about 2-3 years, so different levels right now. Lindolfo Delgado versus Gabriel Goyaz, the IBF 140 eliminator. Controversial decision yet again. I think this is the 3rd time in the past 4 fights for Delgado where he goes the distance. Most people think he'll lose the fight, and he gets the nod. I actually did think that Delgado did enough in this one. I thought that Goyaz, he definitely, he probably actually may have landed more shots than Delgado, but I think that Delgado is still having far more bigger moments, and Delgado just has really poor defense. So I wouldn't be mad at all if Goyaz did get the decision. I do feel for him because he came into this fight as a huge underdog and put on a fantastic showing. It was either 114, 113, either way. Delgado was dropped in the final round, but I'll tell you right now, this guy, he's not that great. He's good, but he's not that great. And he's going to step up to world level. He's now mandatory for Richardson Hitchens. Richardson Hitchens absolutely picks him apart and stops him. I think Delgado he's very beatable. He's shown a lot of beatability, and you can argue he should have lost 2-3 times by now already. He just gets lucky decisions. So I don't know. I think that he's going to fight someone like Hitchens next. If he does get a world title shot, it's not going to go well for him. And then you also had Richard Torres Jr. on this card. First round stoppage. Would have liked to have seen more from him. Nothing wrong that he did. He just shattered the guy's nose immediately. But I wanted to see at least a few rounds from him, so he can stay active. He is the next American heavyweight hope at the moment. People are calling for him to fight Jared Anderson. Let's do it. Also, it's Jared Anderson's birthday, so happy birthday to him. But Anderson's been out of the ring for a long time. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if he really even wants to fight anymore. But if he doesn't have as much of an urge, let's just go out with one last fight against Torres, see if you've still got it, and if not, Torres gets a big win to continue his career. BKFC 84 last night, Lorenzo Hunt, Josh Dyer. What a crazy first round of this main event. Josh Dyer comes in as the champion. They have fought in the past, and he drops Lorenzo Hunt twice pretty much straight off the bat, and it's looking like, oh man, this is going to be bad for Lorenzo Hunt. And then the end of the round, Hunt catches him, knocks him out, has him laid out on the ground, seeing stars. Unbelievable comeback in the fight. What a return to the ring for Lorenzo Hunt. Just crazy, crazy main event. I loved it. He calls out Mike Perry, says he wants him at Knucklemania 6 in February. Let's book it, make it happen. He either needs to be Mike Perry or someone like Dave Mendel. He needs a top level opponent, and I think that Lorenzo Hunt, Mike Perry may just be either or that or Mike Perry, Dave Mendel should be headlining Knucklemania in February. One of those fights, but I would love to see Hunt and Perry fight. I think it'd be absolute carnage. Very fun undercard as well. Drew Stuve got a win in the co-main event. The only fighter to get a decision victory. Everybody else was stoppage, so he's calling for a fight against Dave Mendel as well. Aspen Ladd making her BKFC debut, obviously a big PFL, Bellator, UFC veteran. First round knockout against Cheyenne Bantalif. Really, really, honestly, like nonchalant. Just kind of came in, very quiet, smiled, and just did her thing in like a minute. Laid her out. Fantastic performance. And really every other fight on this card was just really, really fun. Particularly Juan Figueroa had a crazy first round knockout over Caleb Avila. Two huge heavyweights, and that was probably the knockout of the night. Just a spectacular night of fights, and BKFC is such a good product. I'm really enjoying what they're doing there. Like I said, they did announce BKFC Knucklemania 6 will be taking place in Philly on February 7th. I thought that Knucklemania 5 earlier this year was amazing. Can't wait to see what they have cooking for then. They also announced BKFC 86 will be in Australia on January 17th, finally making their debut there. Curious who they're going to have headlining. But yeah, they've got a really strong schedule in December to close out the year. And looking forward to what they got. Let's talk about some news. So, actually, just back to UFC 322 for a second. Ilia Topuria did have a tweet calling out Islam. I've never seen Ilia speak with this much fire in a while, and it seems he really does not like Islam and wants to fight him bad. He had words for both JDM saying that he was a poor champion and for Islam saying that he's very boring. I think that we do really want to see that fight, but I don't think it happens next. I really don't. And I don't think Islam's ducking him. I think it's just bad timing for Islam because he was done at lightweight. But one of the biggest talking points from the event was a fight that didn't even happen on the actual card. It was John Pork versus Dylan Dennis in the crowd. I cannot believe it. At the start of the pay-per-view, you're seeing, the big three, DC, Joe Rogan, John Anik doing their little spiel. And DC points out, there's something going on back there. And there's a huge brawl in the background right at 10 p.m. And I go on Twitter and I say, I'm just guessing. I'm very confident that has something to do with Dylan Dennis. I'm just guessing. And then I see, like a minute later, I see, the tweet got a lot of traction. Everyone's saying, yep, it's him. And it was him with all of Islam's team. Like John Pork or Chonko, I'm calling him John Pork. Everyone. And I was just crying laughing when I saw that it was John Pork specifically who was fighting Dylan Dennis. Like, that is just so funny. And, so the rest of Islam's team, those guys, they all had to go to the hotel to watch the fight because they got kicked out. Dana White said Dylan Dennis has been banned from the UFC events. He will no longer be allowed at any of their cards because he always brings trouble. That's why he doesn't sign him. And this is true. Dylan Dennis gets into a fight everywhere he goes. He's almost like Nate Diaz, but worse. And, so I saw Dylan Dennis when they kind of panned over after one of the fights. I think it was Bo Nickel, because Dylan Dennis has some words for Bo Nickel, I believe. They just showed, the VIP section. I could see Dylan Dennis in there. And I was like, oh, man. And then right after that, he gets into a fight, and I'm like, yep, that checks out. So Dylan Dennis will be banned from UFC events, and I think that we're all okay with that. AJ has been confirmed to be returning in Riyadh in February. So we knew he was going to fight in February. We all thought it was going to be in Ghana, though. Matchroom signed a deal with Ghana to do this event on December 20th. I thought that was just the kind of teaser for and setup for what would be a big stadium show in February. Maybe that's the one-off fight there. Because they've chosen to go with Turkey and have him fight in Saudi Arabia, which I'm okay with. I don't care. I would love to see AJ fight in Africa. Maybe they can do that at some point, but their plan is to have him in a good fight in February and then come back in September and fight Tyson Fury. Now, they didn't say that, but they're saying, oh, yeah, one of the biggest Turkey says, I think it was one of the greatest fights in boxing history, one of the biggest fights. So he definitely means Tyson Fury. Said they would do it in London in September. If they can get Fury to do it, if they can pay him as much money as they need, we need to see that happen. It's definitely past its due date, but we can still see it happen. They're both neck and neck right now in their careers. With what's still left of them, one big stadium fight to close out their careers. It's very much needed for boxing. They also said that they are planning an event around April in Manchester. Curious about that. I wonder who is going to be headlining that card with Turkey. I'm trying to think about what British fighters could be on. I mean, maybe it's another Conor Benn fight. Maybe it's Alexander Usyk versus Fabio Wardley. Something to do with Hamza Shiraz, maybe? I don't know. I really don't know who it could be. Oh, maybe that's Hamza Shiraz Canelo. Maybe they're trying to bring Canelo over. I don't know. I would just assume because it is Turkey, it's going to be some kind of really big event. So we'll see what and that ends up being if it comes to fruition at all. Joseph Parker is denied taking any prohibited substance, says he did not take cocaine, and, he's going to fight this. And, he's just saying that, it was a very well-written legal statement, saying that I maintain my innocence. I don't understand. I want to believe him because I don't understand why you would be doing cocaine a day before your fight. It's just so moronic and just such a bad idea. I don't know who around him would let him do that if somebody, could have stopped him. And I hope it's not true. Hopefully the B sample shows there's some kind of weird mistake, but usually these things are not wrong. So I don't know. I want to believe him, but it's kind of hard to. DAZN leaked on Saturday's broadcast, I noticed that Alexis Rocha, Raul Curiel is going to be on January 16th. So we're finally getting that rematch. Rocha's going to have spent all of 2025 out of the ring. I know they were trying to get a rematch in the summer. Then he got injured and had to get a surgery, I believe. Curiel did get a fight in June. So he's stayed fresh at least. But yeah, I'm not sure why this is going to be on a Friday night instead of Saturday, but maybe they're going to change it. It hasn't actually been announced yet, but it was on DAZN's calendar when they were doing a little ad. No poster or anything, just the name, Rocha versus Curiel 2. So hopefully we can receive an official announcement from Golden Boy in the next week or so, because that fight is going to start coming up soon. They got to start promoting it, but a really good top 10 welterweight fight, and that was one of the fights of the year last year, so good to see it run back. And lastly, it was announced today, kind of a little bit of a tease from MVP saying he's back announcements today. I thought it was going to be Jake Paul, his next fight announcement. It was not. Niraj Goyat is going to be fighting Slim on Misfits Mania. So this is actually the first ever Misfits versus MVP fight, I believe. Slim and Niraj is a fight that's been talked about for a while. Niraj, obviously an Indian pro boxer, kind of a big following there. And he's not great overall. They were talking about him fighting Jake Paul, but he's definitely a lot smaller than Jake. And then Slim, who's one of the better fighters on Misfits, lost to Gibb last year. That was his first loss. I really like this fight. I think it's a big step up for Slim to be fighting a pro boxer. Then again, Niraj is not actually that good of a boxer. He's just like the only boxer from India, so, he kind of gets overhyped as that. I mean, now you have Nishant Dev, who he's going to do really, really good things for Indian boxing. But, Niraj versus Slim, December 20th on Misfits. And I'm just saying, hopefully this bodes well for the interest between those two entities. And Jake Paul KSI can maybe happen at one point, but it kind of seems like they've given up on that fight, and I have too. I don't know. But really interesting fight being added, and they're putting together a very, very strong Misfits event on December 20th. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all enjoyed the fights this weekend. Huge weekend this weekend. Another huge weekend coming up on November 22nd. David Benavidez, Anthony Yarde, that stacked Saudi Arabia card, as well as UFC Qatar. Great fight night. So should be a lot of fun. Thank you all for listening, and peace out.